There's a lot of times that I just get out on the picking porch and play by myself, just because it's just a very peaceful place to be and I enjoy it.
It's always a time to reinvent opera, I think. It's not just the moment we're in or that it's dying. Or opera, in its heyday, was often responding to the culture and the community that it was in.
I wanted to have an inclusivity here at the bookstore where everyone feels welcome. My dream came true.
There's just something about an Appalachian dulcimer instrument. The sound is so peaceful and calming. The word dulcimer actually means sweet song. So when I play one, I feel pretty peaceful about it too. It's really, the music affects you. I'm Mike Clemmer. I have a shop here in Townsend, Tennessee. I play the dulcimer and I build the dulcimers. This is one of them that I made. We're right next to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, some of the most beautiful countryside in the whole world, and the rivers, the mountains, the wildlife, and I just can't think of a better place to be than just right here. The Appalachian dulcimers, this particular type, this was invented in this area because of the memories that the settlers had when they came to this area, when they came over the mountains. You have the do, re, mi of the scale. And that scale is what, basically this is why it's an American instrument. The do, re, mi is, in Europe, a little different. They have different scales. This is my workshop where I build my dulcimers. This is my headstock that goes on the dulcimer, and I've already got this cut out and approximately sanded out. And now I'm going to do the carving that I do on top of the headstock. And I like to keep everything handmade. I actually started building dulcimers in 1976 as a hobby to start with. And I realized that I really like this. So in 1996, we started our shop there in Townsend. I didn't know anything about business, and neither had my wife. We just had about $50 and 2 credit cards, and that's how we started. We were amazed how people would come to us and really respond to the instrument and to us. It was a lot of fun. These are just butterflies and leaves. You can have, it's the amount of hole that's open that makes the sound. I can have one great big hole, or I can have several small holes, but the total volume of the opening is what I have to deal with. And now this is just a burning tool. What you need to make a good Appalachian dulcimer is good wood. I like to have wood that comes from Appalachia if you're going to make an Appalachian dulcimer. This is wormy chestnut and it's very dry. You have to cure it for a while. I have built approximately 5,000 instruments just in the last 25, 30 years. I've got my dulcimers, as far as I know, on almost every continent. This is the banjammer that I invented. This is a hybrid between a dulcimer made like this, and a banjo, which is made like this, so you get the ease of playing of a dulcimer, but the sound of a banjo. And it's just one of those kind of sounds that just makes you smile. Oh, I like Townsend. It's a very quaint, small town. Everybody knows everybody except for the newcomers, and we try to get along with them too. It's not a bad drive to work every morning, is it?
So what's the rest of it made out of? The
Walnut.
Sides and back?
It's all
Yeah,
walnut.
walnut's nice.
That's beautiful.
And this is one of my Tennessee Sweeties, which is a smaller dulcimer. This is one that we started putting together because we were taking a trip or two and we had to get in an airplane. And this, in its case, will fit in the overhead compartment of an airplane. And that's what we did this for. We still wanted one that sounded good, and that's what we couldn't find anywhere, so. The picking porch is something that we've had at our shop for a long time, for 20 years. It's a little stage behind our building on the river, and we'd have get-togethers, and the guests would start playing, and it was just a free concert type thing we did every Saturday. And about when the COVID started happening and coming around, people were a little afraid to come out and gather, so we just stopped it. There's a lot of times that I just get out on the picking porch and play by myself, just because it's just a very peaceful place to be, and I enjoy it. Well, we're just getting ready to go to the jam. We go down here whether it's raining or shining, or as long as it's not flooding, we usually go. And it's just a good time to get with a bunch of folks and just have a good time playing music. This is in Townsend. We're doing it every Monday. Here we are. It's sort of a free thing that anybody that wants to could be there, and that's what keeps it fresh. We don't know who all's going to be there at any given Monday, and it's a lot of fun that way.
It's absolutely beautiful to see young people and old people playing together to pass down what they know, their music, their musical instruments. Throughout the Appalachian Mountains, the mountain dulcimer is a gorgeous instrument.
Sometimes when the mood's right and the weather's right, we come up to the mountains and play a little bit. Now we're going to stop here on the side so you can get a good view of what our place looks like, but God's beauty is up here.
Isn't this beautiful?
Yeah, we'll see if we can play some music. I love people, I love music, and I love woodwork. And it was like God took all that and put it all together and made me a dulcimer player and maker. And I just really enjoy that.
Wherever I sing, even if it's at the Metropolitan Opera, I feel like at least 50% of the audience has never heard a countertenor before. And if you're outside of the opera house in real life, you know, on the street, I would say even 90% of people have no idea what a countertenor is. But they've heard Michael Jackson, and they've heard Prince, and they've heard, you know, Justin Timberlake, and all the people who sing in a falsetto voice. And so it's both a familiar and a foreign register in some ways. I've used that to my advantage to kind of draw people in and give them a way to connect immediately, at first through their shock, and then as they listen, hopefully through the beauty of what we're able to create. I'm Anthony Roth Costanzo, and I'm a countertenor, opera singer, producer here in New York City.
Mozart, voi che sapete?
I began performing professionally when I was 11 years old, first in Broadway, and then by the time I was 13, I started doing opera, and so my voice was starting to change, but I didn't even know it. And someone around the opera world said, "Are you a countertenor?" And I said, "Well, what is that? I don't know." And I started listening to the legacy of Alfred Deller, Russell Oberlin, and other countertenors since then in our modern times. And I never thought about needing to feel masculine by being low. In fact, I never associated pitch with gender in that way. And part of that is to do with my very sophisticated parents who were psychologists and very supportive parents. I've never worried about being gay in opera or trying to hide it or anything like that, and figured that if people had a problem with it, I just wouldn't get hired there. When I first did Akhenaten, this opera by Philip Glass at the Metropolitan Opera, and the director asked me to be naked, I thought, okay, I better get in good shape, because if anyone asked you to be naked in front of 4,000 people a night, you'd want to be in the best shape you could. And I enjoy it. I enjoy the mental release. It's a place where I can think. The audience was captivated, and it became more of a ritual. And the ritualistic aspect of it actually is very intimate. And it's another way to kind of connect to the audience, to draw them in, to make them see your vulnerability, and then to take them on a journey with you from that place. The director asked me to shave my head, and then we wanted to do what they authentically did in ancient Egypt. So because I was naked, we waxed my entire body, which is what they did. They valued hairlessness. They shaved their heads. The hairlessness was sort of godliness. And it does transform you. And you know, when I would go to the grocery store, bald and with no hair on my arms, I feel like an alien. But when I stepped onto the stage as Akhenaten, I felt like I was him. It's very common in France for people to be naked on stage, for example. In America, it's much more controversial. This was the first time at the Metropolitan Opera a man had appeared fully naked. What I love about performing is that it expresses the human being you are. I think for most people, it's not how well it's executed technically, it's how meaningful it is. It's always a time to reinvent opera, I think. It's not just the moment we're in or that it's dying. Or opera, in its heyday, you know, was often responding to the culture and the community that it was in. And now we treat it with such white gloves, you know, as if it's something special. Over the pandemic, I worked with the New York Philharmonic to create this initiative, Bandwagon, and I have this idea to have a pickup truck that went all throughout New York and to present these concerts, completely spontaneous pop-up concerts. And that would mean that it's not audiences who bought tickets who knew the New York Philharmonic, but rather just people we encountered on the street. And the joy that music was able to bring them, especially in this time of silence of the pandemic, was very, very powerful. When I created Glass Handel, which was this project where I combined Philip Glass's music with Handel's music, I knew that in order for it to have a wider reach, I wanted to work with artists like Tilda Swinton, Mickalene Thomas, painters and filmmakers who were not as well versed in opera, but could respond as artists to that sound world and make something wild, pop art, exploration of the music, whether it be Tilda Swinton's dogs looking like they were experiencing the joy of Handel on the beach, or whether it was a storytelling narrative like that video of James Ivory's, where I appear as a knight. So, it was a digital and contemporary way to interpret the music through the eyes of artists who were respected by other audiences. If you've never experienced opera, I would say, don't worry if you don't understand the language. Expect to be bored for at least 15 minutes and know that after 15 minutes, you might find it less boring. And the other thing I'd say is, remember that it's a tightrope act. It's very difficult to sing opera. And so once you tap into how physically demanding it is, it's kind of like watching the Olympics. And actually, everything you need to know is right in front of you. And the story plays out on the stage, the music speaks for itself. So you might not like every opera you go to, but it's definitely worth going because some will change your life.
A bookstore is the same word as community.
How are you doing today?
If you have a thriving community, you will have a thriving bookstore.
Be a weather watcher. 你有没有看到说在教不同的语？
I wanted to have an inclusivity here at the bookstore where everyone feels welcome. My dream came true. The book Jewel is named after my mom. Her name is Jewel. And she was a lover of books and encouraged me to read.
Hi, I'm Karen.
Every time I walk through the door, it's almost like I can't believe that this is really here, that we really did it. Our grand opening was in the middle of a pandemic, August 29th last year, 2020. Sean, our bookstore manager, and I were vacillating. What do we do? We're almost ready. All the construction is finished. The shelves are in, and should we just go for it? And we said yes.
And we wore the masks, and we did curbside service. We did whatever we needed to do to make people feel comfortable about coming. And people came masked up fully with gloves and hand sanitizer, but we were just overjoyed to see people come into a physical space and for a moment kind of lose themselves in that great American activity of shopping. By far the most popular books that we're selling right now since the pandemic, since we opened, are children's books, because all these children for better part of a year have not been able to go to school with their friends.
So we have this darling kitty that found me, ended up in my garage, and I was trying to find the cat a home, and Sean and I were here at the store, and I told him the story. He goes, well, we should have a mascot cat here. He came up with the name Pages. So now we have this draw of people that come to the store just to see the cat.
Sweet.
So I'm in the business of buying buildings and selling buildings every so often. And so for me, it was necessary to be the owner.
I think it's a really pretty addition to
We needed to own the building in order to make this happen. We realized that it was going to be a big challenge. People were not even stepping out of their homes last August very much. But those who did, they walked in the store and they said, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. We can do something different than watching TV or than the internet, or we can actually read a book that will vicariously take us to Hawaii or Costa Rica or give us something else to do with our lives besides sitting at home.
There was a little bit of fear in the community about, will I have a job next, in the fall, or will the money run out? All kinds of things like that people bring with them to the store. And so what the store was a place where it's a little bit of a respite, where you can feel confident that we're all going to get through this together.
People definitely have been isolated, and they want They want to come into a place and feel like they belong.
我们等一下再来看呀。吃完再来看了，走吧。
It's really necessary that we offer that.